welcome to my channel, Yummy Mummy Closet. I am Mimi, and today we're going to have a real and unedited chat about my food relationship journey and how I stay committed to exercise. So before we dive in, I'm going to give you a little bit of my backstory. So I went to Jamaica when I was 6 months old. I was born in the UK and I spent 7 years in Jamaica before I came back to the UK. I was mainly brought up by my grandmother in the early part of my childhood, and my upbringing was centered around food. If you were upset, you'd eat. If you were happy, you would eat. And if people come to visit you, you would cook a lot of food and share. It's really immersed in African and Caribbean culture to center your emotions around food. So that was kind of like the foundation of my relationship with food. Coming back to the UK now, my mum stayed in Jamaica and my grandmother did too. So I was living with my dad's parents, mainly vegetarian, slightly different relationship with food. They didn't eat as much as we did in Jamaica. They didn't have so much emphasis on eating as much. So it was very different adjustment for me. When my mum came back to the UK for us to live with her, it was back to eating bigger meals and finishing what was on your plate, even if you weren't hungry. So it was a bit of a mixed relationship with food in the early part of my childhood. My mum was a single parent for a long time, and well, that's all I knew basically. So it was faced with a lot of challenges, and I found that I coped with those challenges with food. I became an emotional eater. And you know, one relationship that she had with my sister's dad, it wasn't healthy at all. So I coped with that by comfort eating, and I've got clear memories of being a young girl, maybe 11, 12, and just going to like the local shop to get chocolates just to eat. And you know, I've ended up with so many fillings as a result of that, but that was my experience with food. It was a coping mechanism. If I was upset, I'd eat. If I was sad, you know, if I was happy, I might celebrate by eating. So it wasn't well balanced at all for those reasons. I can go into that in another video if you guys want to know a bit more about that. But yeah, my relationship with food was definitely fueled around emotions, negative or happy. I've never been overweight. I've never really been overweight. I've never been skinny. I've just always pretty much been this size, maybe a bit smaller, maybe a bit bigger. But before having children, I never ever maintained my weight in a healthy way. I did eat fruit and veg, but it wasn't at the heart of what I would eat. It was fueled around chocolate, crisps, and then I'd make sure I had like the one good meal a day. I definitely maintained my weight through lots of exercise and dieting. In terms of diets, let's talk about diets. I have pretty much tried them all. So I think my first experience with dieting was calorie counting and calorie restriction. So data is key. Data is king. You definitely need to understand the nutrients in your food that you're eating to make sure you're nourishing your body in the right way. But quite often, in order for people to get to that stage where they are aware of what they're putting into their body, they need to go through the calorie counting process, which I did. I maintained a calorie counting spreadsheet for years. I'd say a good couple of years, if not more, in my early 20s. And late teens, early 20s, I maintained a calorie counting spreadsheet, and I just needed it to control how much food I was eating because I had no knowledge of it. I got very clear memories when I first started working in the city at 18, 19, giving myself 2 chocolate croissants for breakfast, and they're like, what, 350, 400 calories. So already I had like majority of my calories just in breakfast, and then that didn't even include snacking before lunch. So definitely you do need to go through the process of arming yourself with data and knowledge to know what you're feeding yourself. But I remember I've got clear memories of allowing myself, generally on average, 1,500 calories a day, which is fine for some people. Some days I have less than that now. But the fact that I had to just have that every day, and some days, as you know, your body's more hungry than others. So, and I would have target weights based on the calories that I was allowing myself to eat. And if I hadn't if I hadn't reached that weight goal, then I've reduced the calories. At one point, I went down to 1,100 calories at one stage. Now, I'm 5'7", I'm quite big boned. That's not sufficient on average on a daily basis for someone of my form. It's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable. I laugh now because I just think of my poor younger self, or the self-hate. It was just ridiculous. But it came from somewhere, so I needed to go through that journey. So yeah, I did the first diet experience was definitely calorie deficit, calorie counting, not really looking at the nutrients in the food that I was eating in terms of what would sustain me and keep me fuller for longer. The second experience was Slim Fast. Nothing wrong with Slim Fast if it works for some people and they can maintain a well-balanced relationship with food by having 1 or 2 Slim Fasts, I don't know, in a week or whatever they choose to do. But for me, I would have the protein, the Slim Fast shake, I might have the bar for lunch, and then I might have a really restricted dinner in the evening. And yeah, definitely, as they say, in 1 week, the weight does just drop off. And it did. It works. Slim Fast works to drop weight. But it's not sustainable. You end up putting the weight back on, because it's like the issue with diet culture and calorie counting and the deficit and all those things is that you're focused on an end state. And life is not an end state, it's a journey. And what do you do when you get there? What do you do? And that's where the issue comes, is that when you get there, you don't know how to maintain it, that weight, that supposed goal weight, because you're focused on something that isn't real. There's no such thing as you can maintain a weight that fluctuates maybe 1 or 2 pounds either way, but to say that I will always be at this weight is impossible, because life is cyclical. It is based on cycles, and it's impossible to maintain the same weight throughout all your life once you get to that goal weight. So the Slim Fast for me just didn't work. It's not sustainable to survive on just meal replacement shakes all your life. Your body needs whole foods. The third diet I tried was Atkins diet, and that's whereby you just don't have any carbs. But I was so young, I didn't have any understanding of how to feed your body on a low or no carb diet. So I was just literally having no carbs. I'd even not have any fruit or veg, because some of them had carbs in it, and it just had really adverse effects on my stomach for a long time. A long time being, I think I did it for a month, and that was quite a long time. And did I lose much weight? I don't think I probably did lose a little bit of weight. This is going back a long time now, but yeah, that I never ever did that again after my experience of that. It was horrendous. And then I've tried higher fat. I guess that's a form of the Atkins, higher fat diets, and just lower carb again, but having more veg, which is not bad. In theory, I guess you might call that keto now. But yeah, I've just tried a whole host of diets, and they just don't work. Fortunately, when I fell pregnant with my daughter, I was still dieting a little bit up until that point, just not having a well-balanced relationship with food. I remember when I fell pregnant with our daughter, I just said to myself that this has to stop, because we didn't find out the sex of our daughter until she was born. But I was just like, if I have a daughter, I really want her to love herself. I don't want her to go through all this kind of self-questioning, self-hate, lack of self-belief and love. As I have, I want her to love herself. I want her to have a well-balanced relationship with food. I want her to have a well-balanced relationship with exercise. I want her to lead a healthy lifestyle. I want to demonstrate and lead by example how to do all of those things. But I won't be able to do all of those things if I don't learn it myself. So I had to teach myself, because there's no one that had taught me how to lead a healthy lifestyle, or how to eat, a well-balanced diet, or that you should only eat if you're hungry. You don't have to eat breakfast if you're not hungry. Obviously with children, they do need breakfast. It's very different. But I think as you become an adult, your eating habits are different. As a child growing up, I was forced to eat all my dinner when I couldn't eat it all. I was, I'm sure many people can relate to this, but you get forced to eat what's on your plate. And it's just like, well, you're not hungry. You're not hungry. You do need to eat dinner, but you need to eat what your body needs, what your body's asking for. And some days you're going to want more than others. So with my daughter, and son, they're both good eaters. But I want them to just eat what they need. So as long as it consists of protein, fruit and veg, and good carbohydrates, I don't mind how much of that they eat. As long as they don't ask for snacks after dinner, because then they get sent back to dinner, because that's not going to happen. But you know what children are like, sometimes they wrap you around your little finger. But I think we've been taught just to eat on demand, just eat by routine, not on demand, eat by routine. We should eat on demand. We should eat when our bodies naturally tell us we're hungry. If we fed it and we've drunk enough water, and we're still hungry, then we need to eat. Some days I can eat a lot of food. Other days I can have one meal a day because I'm just not that hungry, and maybe it's a day where I've just been in the office and not done much movement. I don't need to eat a lot of food in that day, but some days I might do when I haven't done much. So for me, in terms of how I look at food now, I just look at it as fuel. It's taken a long time to get there. I look at it as fuel, and I tend to eat when my body tells me it needs to. Obviously, I need to be a good example to my children. So I do have a little bit of breakfast with them in the morning. Sometimes I'm rushing and I don't get to have breakfast with them. I've just made sure that they're fed, especially on the school run. But I'll have breakfast with them. And then for lunch, if they've had a big breakfast, I kind of wait until they tell me they're hungry. I'll ask them if they're hungry and then I'll feed them. I don't say, oh, it's 12 o'clock, you ate 3 hours ago, you need to eat. And I'm like, are you hungry, sweetheart? These are the things, these are the options that you need to have. We're more relaxed in that sense. In terms of the sort of more emotional aspects of food, like I said, I had the earlier part of my upbringing, once I came back to this country, living with my mum was a single parent, it was emotionally challenging, and then I led to food was my comfort, basically. So when I fell pregnant with my daughter, I had to look at food differently, but then I also had to look at the emotional aspects of why I eat the way I do. And my husband always said to me that, you're not relaxed around food. Before I fell pregnant, he goes, you're not relaxed around food, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I am not relaxed around food. And I need to really dig deep to see why, because food, you should be at one with food. We need it to survive. So you should be at one with food, like you're at one with brushing your teeth, having a shower. You should be at one with food, but it's the upbringing that some of us have that causes us to have a toxic relationship with food. So I had to really do a lot of soul searching and dig deep into the emotional aspects of why I ate the way I did. And it wasn't easy. I'm summarizing in this video, but it wasn't easy. There was a lot of things I had to look at, especially around how I deal with emotions now as a result of my earlier childhood. So yeah, it wasn't easy. I speak to some friends who are on their own food journey. There is one friend, and she struggles with her weight, and she's always on some sort of diet like Lighter Life or something like that. And when I've said that to her, that it's the emotional aspects that have helped me, because she always says to me, how did you do it? I can't do it. And I'm like, well, you can, but people underestimate the emotional aspects of why we have an unhealthy relationship with food. And I cannot tell anyone enough how important it is that if you want to move forward in your relationship with food and become more balanced with how you see food and how you interact with it, then you need to go through the emotional analysis and the emotional mindfulness of why you eat the way you do. What is it? What happened to the younger you that's causing you to make these decisions that that lead to unhappiness? The binging and chocolate, or whatever it is, late night eating, whatever it may be, whatever your vice is. tackle the emotional aspects. And once you've done that, it will help you in your current state in terms of how you deal with emotional triggers now. So, what's happened has happened in the past. You can't change it. You can learn from it, and it's always going to be there. You can't bury it. You need to be at one with it. But in terms of how that impacts you now, you're going to be more aware, because I still have triggers. I'm a human being, but because I've done that emotional journey, it helps me now. Like sometimes when lockdown happened, which was challenging for everybody, a lot of people lost lives, which was just awful. But I found it so challenging with the homeschooling of my children. It was just really challenging, completely new. And I found that some days where I just wasn't able to get out from the routine of it, I wanted to exercise and I couldn't. Maybe it was, I don't know, snow day or something like that. It was like frosty outside and the gym was closed, and I didn't want to go work out in the park in the cold. I would be snacking like little bits throughout the day, and I gained a bit of weight, not much, like maybe half a stone over a period, which I don't focus on weight anymore either. I don't focus on the numbers on the scale. I focus on my lifestyle. And remember, life goes in cycles. So that was a cycle. That was a little cycle in the year where it was challenging. And I kept picking, and I was just being really mindful that the trigger was the emotional stress, and that, throughout from doing that process, that mindfulness process, I knew that, okay, I need to kind of nip it in the bud, and I was able to. So that's why you really need to go through the emotional journey for the younger you and how it impacts your decisions now. It's really, really important, and it will just make you more aware of any little triggers that crop up and help you nip it in the bud. It's not to say you will have binges now and then, you're a human being, but being aware of the emotional trigger will enable you to address the emotional trigger, the root cause, and deal with it. Sometimes it's something minor that you can be like, oh, okay, wow, okay, I can speak to that person about this, or I can change this thing in my life that you control, and then it will remove the need to binge eat or anything like that. So that would be my main recommendation to anyone that is going on a healthy relationship with food journey, just to look at the emotional aspects of why you eat the way you eat. It really does help, and I think that's one of the things that has kept me consistent with eating healthy. The other thing is that I wasn't educated on the benefits of different types of food. I just knew that I had to eat vegetables, and I like vegetables anyway, thankfully. And eat lots of fruit because they're good for you. It wasn't really explained why. I'm a real detail person, so I like to understand why. Like, okay, why is that particular vegetable good for me? What does it do to my body? Why is that fruit good, etc., etc. So I've had to really educate myself on the benefits of different types of food and the benefits for my type of body. In my family, especially on my mum's side, there's a history of different types of cancers. Sadly, my mum died of lung cancer. My grandmother, before she passed away, she had ovarian cancer. It was very early stages, but she was obese. She was quite big for her age. And she'd always been quite big from what I remember. And she didn't lead the lifestyle that I lead now, where it's active, it's eating healthy, to kind of combat that. So thankfully, she was able to get the ovarian cancer under control, and she went on to live many more years. And then my mum, my mum's dad had a brain tumor. My grandmother's mum had stomach cancer. So there's the history of cancers generally linked to lifestyle. Because when I spoke to my grandmother about the reason for various things, she'd say, "Oh yeah, they led this sort of life and various things like that." Obviously, you can get those diseases having led a healthy lifestyle. But I'm just saying, in terms of my family history, there's cancers linked to certain lifestyle decisions, and then on my dad's side there's a history of various other things like strokes and things like that. So I'm just mindful of it, and I have an auntie on my dad's side. She's very much of the mindset of that I am, that you inherit lifestyle. You've obviously got the genes, but you do inherit lifestyle, and you can combat a lot of diseases by making sensible lifestyle choices. So for me, when all these things happened in terms of people passing away, I just knew that I needed to make a change to not follow their path. I wanted to make a change for me and obviously for my children. So for me, every time I make a food decision, it could be cake. It could be cake. I know that, okay, it's a treat. But generally, day to day, my food decisions are based on health and life extension, life quality. That is the core of what drives me to make healthy food choices on a daily basis. And you know what? Since I became a mum with our daughter, this is our first child, I've noticed my health has improved a lot. I seldom get colds now. I don't think I've had a cold in almost 2 years. And I'm just really in tune with my body and what it needs. I give my body what it needs. If I feel a bit run down, a bit sniffly, I'll up my vitamin D, because as someone with brown skin and living in a cold country, we need more vitamin D. It's really difficult to overdose on vitamin D. So I just take sufficient amounts to compensate for that, to boost my immune system. And I have my blend of ginger, turmeric, lemon and lime that I make fresh. I'll put the details in the description box. That helps to support my immune system as well. And I really just give my body what it needs. My friends always say to me, how come you never get sick? We're always getting colds. But I'm like, you know what? I used to. When I was working, I used to neglect my body so much. But now I'm just really in tune with my body and giving it what it needs. So I really do believe that we have the opportunity to turn our lives around through just being mindful about what we eat, and we don't have to repeat what our parents or grandparents have in terms of their health. If we don't like something about how they eat, we can change it. So that's pretty much a summary of my food relationship journey. In terms of exercise, right, so we all know the benefits of exercise. It helps to boost those endorphins, those positive, happy hormones. It's good for your body. It's, in terms of especially strength training, it's really good to build muscle and to support your joints, especially as you get older, where your muscle mass deteriorates. Anything sort of cardiovascular base is good for your heart, and I just love the effects that exercise has on my mental health. It really makes me happy. Not so much just for my mind, but just to know that I'm doing something positive for my body. And I'm really fit. I love being fit, and I like keeping up with my children. I like showing them that their mum is a fit mum, and I like encouraging them to push their body to do the things that it's designed to do. The body's a machine. It's designed to move. It's designed to keep active and healthy through food and keeping, mobile. So I like that aspect of exercise, and obviously it's nurturing my body, and I hope it's extending my life and, improving my life quality as I get older. I don't use exercise purely just for the physical external elements. So I don't purely use it just to try and look good, which is what I used to do years ago. And my driver is how I'm going to feel and the benefit it has to my body in terms of health. That's the driver. And also I like exercising. I always have, thankfully. I know some of the mums that message me to say, how do you stay motivated? And the one thing I always say is find a form of exercise that you enjoy. Find a frequency of exercise that you enjoy. Don't do exercise on anyone else's terms. I've had a lot of personal trainers over the years, many. Some you probably even see on Instagram because they're quite well known. But the best PT that I've had was one that was kind of more laid back, and how he trained me was in a way that I could continue after I didn't need his services anymore. So I think for me, how I look at exercise, it needs to be on your terms. It needs to be maintainable. There's no point saying I'm going to work out for an hour every day or 3, 4, 5 times a week when it's not realistic to your schedule and your constraints. So create a plan for yourself that's realistic and achievable. So during lockdown, what I learned about how I exercise is that pre-lockdown I was probably overcommitting, so now I never overcommit. In terms of exercise during lockdown, I was doing like 5-10 minute workouts a day. I didn't overcommit because I knew they were achievable. And when you set a goal that's achievable, you get a massive sense of achievement when you achieve it. And what's going to happen? You're going to go the next step. You're going to probably do, if you set a goal of say 5 minutes of exercise per day, and you achieve it, you'll be like, actually, I can do more than this. So then you're more likely to do more. So set an achievable goal for yourself. It's not for anyone else to set that goal for you. You set the goal for yourself. And if you set it, you're more likely to commit to it and stick to it. So that's what I would say about exercise. I keep my goals realistic. They're not centered around how I look. They're centered around how I'm going to feel after the exercise. That I know if I go for a run, I'm going to feel good. I know if I get to the gym, even if just for 20 minutes, I'm going to feel better than I would had I not gone. Even if it was 10 minutes at the gym. I've actually gone to the gym and only done 10 minutes. I've just literally gone on the cross trainer and left, but I felt fantastic because that's all I could do. So just set realistic goals. That's what I do to maintain the momentum and keep consistent. Well, that's it, guys. If you found this video interesting, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you want me to make another video relating to this but go into more detail, please let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.